Hey guys, this is Julio with Aircon Academy. I had a question the other day about pumping a system down. Actually, not just any system, but a mini split. So if you look here, we see that we have the mini split, the outdoor unit. We have the indoor unit here, which is hanging up on the wall. Inside here, of course, we're going to have a compressor. We're going to have your condenser in here because this question was also about a heat pump. So I'll put a reversing valve right here to, you know, let you guys see that. Inside here, of course, we have the evaporator and we have your two lines. You have your liquid line and your suction line right here. Because the mini splits is an inverter system, now we can't just push a contactor in. That's one of the big differences. So what we have to do is we have to go, there's one or two things that we can do. We can go inside the house and where the air handler is, we see that it has this EO setting, the emergency operation setting. So now once we push that, it's going to run this unit in the cooling mode for about 30 minutes. It's going to be more like a diagnostic test that it's going to do. And we can do that. Or what I did is I just set the remote control to the cooling mode. Once you set it to the cooling mode, the reversing valve is going to be set for cooling, and it's going to draw the refrigerant out of the evaporator, compress it through the reversing valve and into the condenser, just like a regular AC unit. We have to do this because it is an inverter unit. Very, very important to remember that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to hook up our blue gauge right here. And if there's a connection, you could hook up your red gauge here. Mine did not have a connection on the liquid line, so I just hooked up my low side gauge right here. So we get to the unit. Once we get to the unit, we're going to take the caps off of the valves right here, and we're going to make sure that we have the correct Allen wrench so we can do this. We make sure that it fits in there. We go inside, we set the remote control to cooling. Once we set the remote control to cooling, we come back out. This unit's going to be running like normal. We go ahead and close off the liquid line right here. We close that off. Once we close that off, we're going to see that the blue gauge, this pressure is going to drop, it's going to drop, it's going to drop. And once it gets down to zero, okay, then we're okay. What do I mean by that? Well, we want to get all of the refrigerant that's out of the system and put into the condenser. Once we're at zero, the EPA says if there's no refrigerant in the system, we don't need to recover. So now we get it to zero. Once we see that it hit zero, we close off the suction valve right there. Once we close that off, we go over to the disconnect, pull the disconnect, the unit will shut down. Once the unit shuts down, then we can do the repairs. And you will see that this pressure has dropped. It's going to be actually below the zero. And that's a good thing because now we can make sure that we have no refrigerant left in the system and we can do our repairs. So let's take a quick look at this. Now I'm going to pump this system down. It's a little mini split. And to do that, I hook up my suction gauge right here to the return. And then, or should I say the suction, then I just close this off. There's my liquid line. As I close off my liquid line, I can see that my suction pressure is dropping, and I am drawing all of the refrigerant out of the system. It's going to pump it all down and put it into the condenser. This is a Mitsubishi mini split. As you can tell, pressure is dropping, so I'm keeping my eye on it. Once it gets down to about zero, then I will go ahead and turn power off. So now it's pretty much down to zero. You can hear the compressor revving up a little bit, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shut off the suction also so that I don't have any refrigerant going back out into my system, so I can make the repairs that I need to. And according to the EPA, all I need to do is bring it down to zero. pulled the disconnect, and now we can see that my pressure stayed down low, and I only had my suction line hooked up. There is no connection on the liquid line, so I just connected to that. So pumping down on the mini split, I went ahead and got this ready. I went ahead, hooked up my suction gauge right here to my suction line. I went ahead and took the cap off of here, make sure I had the correct Allen wrench for here, closed that off. My suction pressure dropped. Once it dropped down to 0, I went ahead and closed off my suction, and then I pulled the disconnect. Now this happens to be a heat pump. Because of that, I had the heat pump in the cooling mode so that I can do my pump down like I normally should. But that's really all there is to pumping down a mini split. Now that we've done the repairs, it was just a small leak on one of the lines here. So we pulled the vacuum. We repaired the leak. We leak tested. We pulled the vacuum down to, again, 500 microns. Once we get everything set, it holds the vacuum. We know that we don't have any more leaks. So what we do is we go ahead and open up the liquid line right there. Once we open up the liquid line, that refrigerant that's been in the condenser is going to go through the system, and you're going to hear it go through. Then we open up the suction. Once we have both of these opened up, then we can put the disconnect. We turn the disconnect back on. Once that happens, we go inside, set our thermostat to the proper setting, which are our temperatures. We make sure that we have enough refrigerant in here, and that's basically all that there is to it. Now again, this is an inverter unit. Because of that, we have to set the remote control to the cooling mode. So let's take a quick look at this. Once you have finished the repairs and you're ready to get the system going back again, we go ahead and just open up the liquid line. And you can hear the refrigerant going back into the system. Once we have opened that up all the way, we can go ahead and do the same thing on the suction side. We open this back up. Now that we have this done, we can go ahead and put the caps back on and turn power back on. And we're done. We can run the unit again. Now the unit is running fine. It's running great. It's cooling like it's supposed to. And we're done. We're done with this, but that's how you would go about pumping the system down. I hope this helped. Hope that answers your question. And remember, I'm Julio, Aircon Academy, and be safe out there.